You're often described as a human dynamo. Do you like that title?
I think it's absolutely wonderful. The only thing is that it isn't true.
Well, let's presume it is, because I think it is, for one. So how much do you attribute your vast success to attitudes that were instilled in you as a child?
Oh, quite a lot. I came from a very humble home. I was the product of a broken marriage. Through my own fault, I may add, I didn't do very well at school. And I always have the spectre, so to speak, of a very, very hard-working mother trying to keep her delinquent son on the straight and narrow. So from that point of view, I get a great deal of inspiration from her and from my childhood.
Are there good memories of childhood?
Most of it wasn't very nice at all. We lived in literally 2 up and 2 down with no bath and a copper in the kitchen and gas lamps and things until I was something like 10 years of age. The going was very, very, very tough indeed. Of course, we didn't have any television, and we had an old 3-valve Echo radio that I used to take to pieces and reassemble every day to keep it going. And I had a lot of fun from that point of view. I had 2 very, very nice uncles that were very kind to me. One of them was quite a brilliant mechanic in his own way, and they used to buy and sell old motor cars and that sort of thing. So that was great fun.
Did you tinker with the motor cars yourself then?
Oh yes.
As well as the radio?
In fact, I was so bad, as I say, I'm not very proud of it, but I was so bad at school academically and just couldn't get on with the idea of history and biology and things like that, that when I was 14, I actually took an automotive engineering course at night.
Did you?
Yes.
When you were 14 also, you ran the tuck shop, didn't you?
Yes, I ran the tuck shop during the day at my school. As Lord Denning once referred to me as a merchant venturer, I think that was the first time I became a merchant. I ventured afterwards.
Actually, would you change any of that background that you had? I mean, would you rather have gone to a public school and lived in a house other than a 2 up and 2 down?
But of course, hindsight, you can get a bucketful for nothing from any store. And obviously, in hindsight, I obviously would have done better at school. I would have tried more. I'd have been more kind to my mum, for example. I probably wouldn't have torn my trousers as often as I did. I probably wouldn't have fallen face down in the tar as often as I did, and I did all of those things. And I would have probably wound up being a bank clerk.
What made you want to go into the aircraft industry?
I really had no idea what I was going to be until one day I was standing on the street corner, literally, with some of my yobbo mates, so to speak, and we were looking into the sky, and lo and behold, there was a 4-engine biplane of Imperial Airways on its way from Croydon to Paris, and the German airship, the Hindenburg, was on its way from Germany across the Atlantic, and they crossed right above our heads in Canterbury, where I lived. And I said to my mates, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to the aeroplane business.
When did your real break come?
I finished at the end of the war with £40. That was my net gratuity. In other words, my gratuity was 3 months' pay, less deductions. And by the time they deducted the fact that I'd lost 2 parachutes and I'd lost 2 or 3 overcoats and hats and this and that and one thing and another, I had £40 to come. So I started with that. But that was to get into the business. My first big break came when a friend of mine that I had helped, and he said, what can I do for you? I said, well, nothing really. And we were having a drink in the Silver Cross in Whitehall, and he said, well, if you had the money, what would you do? I said, well, if I had £42,000, I would buy a fleet of converted Halifax bombers and all the spare parts from British Overseas Airways, you see. And he said, well, how much have you got? I said, about 4,000. And with not a blink, nothing, he pulled out his checkbook and wrote out a cheque and handed it to me, and it said, pay F.A. Laker £38,000.
Just like that?
Just like that. And that, of course, was the big first financial break. That was real luck. That's the little bit of luck that you need in life. You can be a genius, but you have to have a little bit of luck. And that was mine. Then, lo and behold, within 3 months, the Big Berlin airlift had started, or was about to start, and of course the British government wanted every civilian aircraft it could lay its hands on. So I sold 6 of the aeroplanes and kept the other 6 and operated them in conjunction with Bond Air Services on the Big Berlin airlift for a year. And I saved, I thought, it's not possible, you know, lightning doesn't strike 3 times, it struck twice with me. I've had the luck with the loan, I've had the luck with the airlift. Now I've got to be really careful. So I literally hoarded every penny that I had made, and I turned the surplus cash into stock, and I bought as much government surplus as I could lay my hands on. And at the end of the Berlin airlift, I had 6,000 aeroplane engines and over 200 airplanes. So I packed up flying and got my staff. By this time I collected a terrific bunch of chaps around me. You know,
they do stay with you, Freddie, don't they, too?
I have many people with me today that were working for me on the Berlin airlift in 1948.
Now, why do you think there is this loyalty?
It's an individually owned business. It's a bit like a dictatorship in many respects, but in many respects, but sort of the benevolent type of dictatorship, I like to think. And they either stay with me for 3 months and go, or they stay forever. And fortunately, most of them stay forever.
Are you a demanding boss?
In many respects, yes. If I do bawl and shout at them, I think on the whole they take it in good part and say, well, he usually knows what he's talking about, and he's probably got good cause to complain and shout. And most of the shouting is against restrictions. And I find that almost everyone agrees with me, but not all of them want to knock down the barriers.
On quite a different tack, there have been a number of ups and downs in your life. Well, the hardest down of all must have been the death of your son in 1965. But you've got a very nice feeling about the future now, haven't you, with your young little son?
Yeah. Well, if you've got a lad of 17 and a half whose great ambition in life is to go in business with you, with his dad, he's a good looker, he's full of fun and he's full of fight and gusto, and then you lose him overnight. It's something that's taken out of your life. You can never replace, and there's no point in trying to replace it. You have to live with it, and it's your problem, and you have to stay with it. But I'm one of those lucky people in this world that I have a little boy, a son, and now I have a new ambition. At the moment he's full of gusto and is a good looker, and I have an idea he may be just the right man for this job. I think that I have one job in life now, and that's to see him on his 21st birthday. So this makes me look after myself with my health and things like that. So I have a new thrust in life, something new to do, stay alive.